Welcome back to the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BOL, alongside Joseph Hastings right there next to me, recruiting analyst for us. Does a great job for BOL. And down there in the prestigious Center Solo Square, it's the veteran, the wily veteran, Andrew Bone, the senior recruiting editor for BamaOnline.com. Guys, no shortage of topics. It's really an exciting time of year, right? Because you got summer enrollees coming into the mix. Feels like the true start of the college football calendar year in a lot of ways, because that team for 2024 is really going to start to get together in Tuscaloosa. And it's been, Andrew, kind of a wild ride this time around, because it's not just the high school signees that we've been waiting on. You've had so much transfer portal action. You got those guys that are going to join this mix as well. Hell, you got Caden Proctor coming back in. I mean, it's a little bit of everything, isn't it?
Yeah, Caden's one of those guys that you feel like never really even left. He was at Iowa, but it was like he was back in Tuscaloosa almost every weekend visiting with his former teammates, and then obviously ends up coming back. But yeah, I mean, not only, as you mentioned, do you have the high school guys coming in, Ryan Williams, QB Reese, Kevin Riley, Amari Jefferson, Rico Scott, Jay Lindsay. I mean, those guys, you can't forget about them. I mean, they were part of that 24 class, guys that, decided to stick with Alabama. Could have left, could have ended up transferring, gone somewhere else, could have, gotten out of their NLI and gone elsewhere. You look at somebody like Kevin Riley, who Joseph will probably talk about here in a minute, but because he's had some good conversations with him. But this is a kid that was committed to Miami since last summer, then ends up flipping pretty much on signing day to Alabama, or during the early signing period to Alabama. Could have easily probably gone back to Miami after Nick Saban retired, but he stuck it out. And you got to be excited about the kids that are coming in, and kind of see what all they've been able to do during this during these last few months as far as training. Now, a couple of them have been playing other sports, like Amari Jefferson. He just wrapped up his baseball season just a week or so ago. So, yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time, and you get the new guys from the transfer portal. They're going to be on campus. Everybody reports on Sunday, May the 26th, and classes begin next week.
Yeah, and Joseph, you've been able to get some really good perspective on a couple of these guys, as Andrew pointed out there. When you look at Ryan Williams in the Williams camp, and the conversations you've had with Ryan's father, and then also Kevin Riley, the sort of local hero that's going to join the Crimson Tide at the running back position.
Absolutely. I was able to speak with both of them over the past couple of weeks, Kevin Riley most recently. And starting with that conversation with Riley, which is posted on BamaOnLine.com right now, he expressed excitement about making the move to Tuscaloosa. And I say making the move, quote unquote. I mean, he's in Tuscaloosa, but, making the move to the University of Alabama, enrolling, getting there on campus, beginning some more workouts. He's really excited about the process, ready to represent his hometown and home state at the next level. That's something that he expressed a lot of excitement for. And he talked about, during that transition period from Coach Saban to Coach DeBoer, he really didn't have any second guesses about the decision that he made, as Bone alluded to, flipping to Alabama during the first day of the early sign period last year. He didn't have any second guesses about it. He knew about Coach DeBoer's history, the offense that he runs, how versatile it is, especially for someone like himself who could not only run the ball, but catch it out the backfield too, line up in the slot. So, he's somebody that brings a lot to the table, skill set wise, and that's something that he's talked about with Bama offensive coordinator Nick Sheridan. He's had multiple conversations with Coach DeBoer during his visits to Alabama in the spring. Obviously, that Coach Gillespie being retained on the staff, running backs coach, was huge for him, being able to still have that relationship carry over. So a lot of good stuff in that interview. I'd highly encourage you all to check out. And one story we will be releasing soon is one with Ryan Williams' father. Got to speak with him recently during my trip to Mobile, Alabama. Actually saw him at Viger High School, interestingly enough, not at Saraland. It was 15 minutes away. Had a really good conversation with him. He talked about the decision to stick with Alabama, I guess, if you would say. I mean, Ryan did end up decommitting following Nick Saban's retirement, but ended up coming back into the fold a couple weeks ago. He talked about how pivotal it was for the assistants in that process. Guys like Denzel Duvall, Josh Chapman, Clinton Dix, and Charlie Potter wrote a great feature story on those three a few weeks ago, by the way, how pivotal they were during that transition period. But Ryan's father talked about that, and how it was great to have those relationships carry over, because not only did Nick Saban retire, remember Holman Wiggins, wide receivers coach, left for Texas A&M too. So there are a couple big changes there for Ryan Williams and his camp. But after conversations with Coach DeBoer and Coach Shepard, they were sold. Ryan's dad called it a layup, so to speak, with their history producing wide receivers, their development, the pedigree. So we're going to be having a great feature on Ryan's father coming up. Got a story on Jay Lindsay going to be posted soon, and I'm talking with Rico Scott right now as well. So and we, Bones already posted a story on Noah Carter. We've had one on Amari Jefferson. The summer enrollees are really excited, and I'm glad we got to highlight them, because I think sometimes you forget about them, seeing all the guys stand out in spring practice and even during the bowl period. But very exciting group coming in.
Yeah, Andrew, and I think it gets overlooked already that Ryan Williams reclassified, and thinking about what he took on in making that happen, to graduate from high school, to be able to go ahead and join this program a year early than originally anticipated. And even with all of that, it's a very small number of previous Alabama enrollees that I can think about that are going to be as anticipated as Ryan Williams is in the next few days.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what his ranking is on the new NCAA football game coming out, because I think he's probably going to have a higher ranking than some of the guys that are that have been there. So, this is certainly one of the most anticipated players that has arrived at Alabama in quite some time. Two-time Mr. Football Award winner. We've been talking about him for such a long time, and I'll never forget the conversation I had with his father a couple of years ago. And his father, I interviewed his father back in high school, which is quite wild. And I'd been in the business. It wasn't my first year in the business either. I'd been around for a couple of years, so getting a chance to talk to his father again was pretty surreal. And then him telling me, he said, "Ryan's the one. He is going to be the best kid that has come out of this Mobile area in such a long time." And sometimes that's a parent saying that, but sometimes it's could be true. And in Ryan's case, it was true. And he went on to win Mr. Football as a sophomore, and then decided to reclassify. And we knew about the reclassification for a long time. It was kind of interesting how there was some kind of back and forth about when he was going to reclassify, who knew about it first, whatever. He kind of made this decision back last spring that it was an option on the table, and we had discussed it with him as far as what he was going to do, when he wanted to release that news. And then his dad called me back in, I think it was late July, told me, he said, "Hey, we're doing it. It's done. We're going to be reclassifying, but we want to keep it quiet until the end of the football season. We want to make it a big surprise." Of course, rumors kind of end up spreading. I think everybody in Saraland knew it was happening. So it was something that kind of hit message boards, and a lot of people were discussing it, and people were like, "Y'all don't know about this?" We know about it. They just don't want it out there yet. So we had to keep it quiet until December. But when he was able to get everything solidified there, he had just an unbelievable career at Saraland, and he had an unbelievable two state championship games in a row, one during his sophomore year, and then lost against Jalen Mbakwe and Clay Chalkville in the
Heck of a game. Yeah.
/ junior senior year for Ryan Williams. That was an awesome game. So it's exciting to see. It's going to be exciting to see kind of what his development is going to look like over the course of the next couple of years in Tuscaloosa. Credit to Coach DeBoer and that staff for coming in, basically recruiting him right away, being able to get him back into the fold. Because as soon as Nick Saban retired, mean, Ryan decommitted. I think there was a
Yeah.
Hayes Fawcett graphic within about an hour.
That one was in the drafts. It felt like almost.
Yeah, and everything seemed like he was going to Auburn because they'd been pushing the hardest. Then he decided to clear his head a little bit. Went out to Texas A&M that weekend, actually, where Holman Wiggins had gone to, former Alabama wide receivers coach, and spent some time out there. Flew out there, but said he had a chance to kind of clear his head during that flight to Texas A&M and back, kind of regroup, and then during that time period, Coach DeBoer was hired. Reached out to him kind of immediately. I think he was in Tuscaloosa either that Monday or Tuesday after returning from that Texas A&M visit, and he felt so comfortable around Coach DeBoer, the staff. I think Alabama was really always where he wanted to go. He grew up a big Alabama fan, even though his father played a couple years at Auburn before leaving. He was a huge Alabama fan growing up. I mean, this is a kid that grew up watching Alabama win for so long, saw so many top receivers that have come through the program, and wanted to be kind of that next guy in line. And this new staff did a great job of selling him. And now he's already taking part in these Yay Alabama events. So he's been part of the team, it seems like, for a while. And I think he's ready to show everybody what all the commotions about Ryan Williams and the legacy that he hopes to leave at Alabama.
Yeah, you can find out what all the commotion is about at BamaOnLine.com right now. As you can see, the Bama Online football recruiting news page just loaded up with great content from Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, just one after another. And as a part of that, guys, you've got Alabama commitments that are scheduled to take visits elsewhere, as we know. So I'm going to ask both of you. And I'll start with you, Joseph, because you had a conversation, I believe, with Duke Johnson here in the last day or so that is a part of that storyline with us at BamaOnline.com. What did you take from that conversation with Duke Johnson, the Georgia native, versatile player, great athlete, probably a linebacker at the next level, projectable, though, at a couple of different positions? What was the feel for him in terms of his commitment status to Alabama and maybe what he's got on deck here?
Yeah, it feels like Duke is locked in with Alabama. Look, when you have a commitment in the spring like his, and Alabama got a bunch of them during that March and April period, you're going to want to take your official visits. Obviously, you only get this recruiting process once. We just talked about Ryan Williams. Ryan had scheduled 4 official visits while committed to Alabama before Nick Saban retired, and there was a lot of discussion about that. But you want to take your visits. You want to enjoy the process as much as you can. So what's interesting about this conversation was that he replaced his FSU June 4th through 16th official visit with one to Auburn. And then the sole purpose of that is Florida State wanted to get him on campus during the season, get him kind of closer to his decision timeline to take that official visit. He's got officials locked into UCF May 31st. Alabama June 7th, and then Auburn June 14th for the time being. Also considering a visit to Tennessee, but he let the coaching staff know he's locked in. He's good to go with the Crimson Tide. And if you follow him on social media, whether it be X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram, he's constantly recruiting for Alabama, constantly tweeting out the elephant emojis, or posting on Instagram to come home, making a point to recruit it. He said that to me, like during this June 7th through the 9th weekend, he's going to be recruiting. You've got Michael Carroll, who we've talked about extensively, top 100 offensive lineman. You got Dawson Merritt, who we're going to be talking about shortly, a priority Wolf position target, running back Bo Jackson, and a few others coming into town that weekend. He wants to get them on board. He's also recruiting some others too. I know in the prior conversation we had, he said that he was talking with Julian Lewis, a couple of others. He's going to readjust that, for this upcoming weekend, that he's going to be taking his official visit to Alabama. But yeah, he seems like he's locked in with the Crimson Tide, loves everything about them, about the coaching staff, the relationships he's built so far, about how the standard has continued to stay the same. And yeah, he's someone to be excited about, like you said, because of how many different roles he can play in that Swarm D defense.
Yeah, and Duke Johnson, as I learned from your update on him, Joseph, going to attend that prestigious On3 Elite Series up in Nashville. And Andrew, he's going to be joined by Derek Smith, another Alabama commitment. I guess Smith has some visits scheduled elsewhere as well. What else do we need to know about Derek and maybe some other Alabama commitments that have some trips on the immediate horizon here?
Yeah, Derek Smith. He's probably one of the quietest recruits in this cycle. Doesn't really talk much to the media. Now, we did have a recent interview with him. Joseph spoke with Derek about his recruitment, kind of where things stand as far as his visits, his commitment status with Alabama, which all these guys seem pretty solid with Alabama when you talk to them, but they are still taking visits. It's always something you got to watch. And Auburn's been a contender with Derek Smith, from the get go. A lot of people thought that that's where he was going to go a year ago. Of course, nobody really knew because the kid didn't talk much, so everybody was kind of just speculating. But he had taken some trips to Auburn, and then he took some trips to Alabama. I think the biggest question is what position does he want to play in college? Alabama's recruiting him as a safety, so he committed to Alabama back in March. Auburn's been pursuing him as a wide receiver. I mean, he's one of the absolute best athletes in the entire country, and I think he can have a lot of success on either side of the ball, wherever he decides to focus on once he gets to college. But as of right now, his plan is to play safety, but he's going to take that official visit to Alabama next weekend, and then he's going to take an official to Auburn. Now, there's some other schools that are still trying to get him on campus, but I think it's certainly going to come down to those two schools. And as of right now, we still feel pretty good about where things stand with Alabama. But Derek Smith, there's two other in-state guys that are kind of holdovers from the last year's, from the previous staff, and that's Anthony Rogers, who's going to take an official to Ohio State next weekend. He's still considering some other options: Georgia, Auburn. Those are schools that he might officially visit. Alabama is going to get an official, obviously, probably going to be in the fall. I think he's going to wait until the fall to take the official. You got Antonio Coleman, who flipped from Alabama to Auburn in December, and then flipped back to Alabama in March. So he's still talking to some other schools. Auburn's still in the mix. He visited there this spring. Some other schools are trying to get him on campus, including LSU, Miami, maybe even USC. And then Miles Johnson. Miles Johnson's probably the one guy that we're really waiting to see kind of what happens, because he got offered last summer, committed in the fall, but he tore his ACL, and that was an injury that happened last summer. Missed his entire junior season, so the new staff hasn't even seen him really work out to this point. Now he's stayed committed, but he has kind of considered other options. Ole Miss was recruiting him pretty heavily. Florida's been pushing hard for him. They're going to get an official visit from Miles on June the 7th. Now, he hasn't set up an official to Alabama just yet, but that's certainly somebody that you're kind of waiting to see what happens. Maybe from an Alabama perspective, more so from Miles' perspective, because they do have 4 inside linebacker commitments right now. Does that potentially push him to go somewhere else? We'll kind of wait and see. And we'll see if Alabama decides to bring him in for an official visit this summer. But Miles and like I said, Miles Johnson and Anthony Rogers, 2 guys that have been committed to Alabama since before the new staff arrived. They've stayed true, but they're still going to take some visits to some other schools over the course of the next couple of weeks.
And as you're seeing here on the show, we're showing you the piece that Andrew put up yesterday, the inside look, schools trying to pry away current Alabama commits. So if you really want to go in depth there, Andrew absolutely knocks it out of the park with that piece. So be sure to check that out with us at BamaOnLine.com. All right, guys, this one's kind of been anticipated since we put the show post up on the roundtable this morning. Flip watch for Alabama on the recruiting front. When we talk about players, prospects committed elsewhere, that you feel like Alabama has a good chance, if not great chance, to flip UA's way. Who wants to start us? Who wants to give us their pick first? Do we go Andrew? Do we go Joseph? Do we do a jump ball type of situation? Rock, paper,
Yeah,
scissors?
I'll let Joe go first.
JoJo in that leadoff spot. Go ahead, JoJo. Attack that one for us.
Putting me on the spot because I know this is going to be clipped, and whatever happens.
I'd never do that, JoJo. At least not that you know of. Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about him these past few shows, but I have to bring him up again. Keelan Russell, SMU quarterback commitment, got an offer from Alabama in late April after Nick Sheridan visited him. Got to see him throw. They offered him on his birthday, which, good news for him on that day. And he's going to be taking that official visit next weekend. One of over a dozen official visitors for the Crimson Tide that first weekend. And he's a big one. You talk about top 100 overall player in the country, top 10 quarterback in the nation. You put on his film, you like everything that you see from him from a technical standpoint, footwork, accuracy, deep ball throwing. He's kind of got the total package, some mobility with him as well. Looking at his recruitment, Alabama is one of the top schools pushing the hardest to flip his commitment. We know he took an official visit to Ole Miss a few weeks ago, recently took an official with SMU, also recently got offered by Oregon, going to be taking an official visit to Florida after his Alabama OV. But he's really high on the Crimson Tide, and the offense that they're bringing into place. He's had some really great conversations with Nick Sheridan, especially that in-person meeting, being able to build a relationship with him. And you look at quarterbacks, most likely in the 2025 class to commit to Alabama. It's hard not to, to put him at number one just based on getting that official visit locked in, the high interest he's expressed, and we're going to see how things play out. He's got some schools pushing hard for him right now, but if I'm thinking most likely to flip to Alabama right now, it would probably be Keelan Russell.
And with that, Sam agrees with you. One of our viewers says, great selection, Joe. Keelan Russell, he's a good one. We appreciate that, Sam. We appreciate everyone tuning in this morning. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we certainly encourage you to do that right now. Hit the subscribe button. Hit a like for us if you don't mind. Turn on those notifications. You'll get all of our YouTube content as it drops right here on the YouTube home for BOL. And with that, Andrew Bone, take a swing at this one. Flip watch.
Okay, so I'll name a player or two that I think Alabama's got a very realistic shot, but I feel like as far as my prediction, and this is, people are going to say this doesn't count, but I don't care. I think the flip from my end is going to come from somebody that gets offered by Alabama this summer. Alabama had 9 kids that were previously committed elsewhere that signed with Alabama in last year's recruiting class. And I need to go back and look, but I think at least 3 players are guys that added an offer from Alabama after coming to summer camp last year. That included Red Morgan, who was offered in the summer after camping, flips from FSU. Jay Lindsey was committed to Mississippi State, came in, earned the offer. Justin Okoronkwo, he's another guy that flipped from Maryland after coming in and working out. So I think we're going to see somebody that's going to come in and work out, whether that's on the defensive front. I don't think it's going to be a linebacker. I know that's going to depress a lot of people, but I think defensive line, maybe defensive back, we're going to see somebody that's going to come in. But as far as guys right now, A.K. Deere is somebody that has been on Alabama's radar for such a long time, from last year all the way till now. He's out of Mississippi. He's committed to Ole Miss. And, I mean, it's going to be a Herculean effort to be able to flip him away from the Rebels. But Coach Gillespie has done a really good job there, was retained by the new staff, and I think that certainly helped. And A.K. Deere coming in to Tuscaloosa next month, I think, is on June the 14th, is going to be a pretty interesting visit. And one more guy I'll mention on the defense side of the ball, since we hadn't mentioned anybody on defense, and I think probably 4 or 5 months ago we would have been talking about Justice Terry or Javion Hilson, but I'm going to say Jacaleb Falk. Now that's not a flip prediction, but it's somebody I think we're watching as far as how things are going to go with him over the course of the next month, because he's an Auburn commitment from Highland Home High School, and his brother's at Auburn. But he's got a great relationship with Christian Robinson. They talk every single day. Joe had a recent interview with Caleb at BOL. So there's a really strong connection there. He's coming in for the official on June the 21st. So we'll see kind of how that goes. But the biggest thing with Caleb is how are things going to go with some of these other Wolf targets that are going to be coming into Tuscaloosa over the course of the next 3 weeks, because you got Dawson Merritt, top 100 guy that's going to be in Tuscaloosa on June the 7th. You've got Justin Hill, who's going to be in town on June the 14th. And Steve Wiltfong of On 3 Sports came out yesterday. Now, Justin Hill is a kid out of Cincinnati, grew up an Ohio State fan. Ohio State's been the heavy favorite for him for considered a very long time. And I even talked to Steve a couple weeks ago, just kind of see where his head was at with Justin. And he told me, he said, it looks like Ohio State still. Feel comfortable picking Ohio State. Yesterday, Steve came out on his show with On 3 Sports and said that he feels like Alabama has moved into the lead for Justin Hill heading into the summer. Now, there's a lot of schools that lead for kids heading into the summer, and it changes just like that after an official visit. So we're not making any sort of predictions on him just yet, but with Dawson Merritt coming in on June the 7th, I feel like Alabama's got a great chance there, because it's down to a top two with Alabama and Nebraska. I think that Alabama's got a really good chance, since he's already taken that official with the Cornhuskers. And then Justin Hill. Alabama's not taking more than 2 Wolves in this class. I think there was some talk about at least taking 1, but they're not taking more than 2. So if they already wrap up that position by June the 21st, it's probably going to be hard to take Caleb Falk. But if those guys have not made decisions yet, Caleb, feels like he wants to potentially flip his commitment, there's probably going to be a spot there at Alabama for him. So that's something that we're watching very closely. Not a lot of flip targets this year. There's some guys, it feels like there's usually more this time of the year, but there's just not a ton. I think we're going to see some more emerge in the coming weeks with summer camp coming up, some guys that, we have not even talked about yet. I mean, you look back, as I said, with Jay Lindsey last summer, didn't have any highlights as a receiver because he was mainly used as a blocker in his school's offense. Goes to Alabama's camp, measures in at 6'4", 235 pounds, and runs a 4.6 40. Showed Alabama that he could catch the ball a little bit, so they offered him a scholarship. He ends up flipping from Mississippi State. Justin Okoronkwo comes in from Germany. That's another guy that nobody really knew about, and had a great camp. Ran a 4.5 4 in the 40 at 6'3", 220 pounds. And we saw kind of how we saw some flashes of him in the spring game this year. So I do think that the biggest one of the biggest flips this year is going to come from somebody that gets an offer from Alabama in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, one of our viewers here, Mask Up Daytona, he wanted you to name 3, and Andrew, I think you checked that box and then some. So
like I said, it's hard to make a prediction just yet, but those are the guys that we're watching pretty closely. Alabama also offered a tight end this week, kind of a flex tight end, Marshall Pritchett out of Georgia, committed to North Carolina. Of course, Alabama's having a battle. An alumni there, Freddie Kitchens, has I guess he's the tight ends coach over at UNC right now. So they're gonna have to pull one off of Freddie. So I think that that's a guy that we'll wait and see if he ends up making a visit. Josiah Abdullah, it's another kid that's committed to Florida from the state of Georgia. He's considering a visit to Alabama next month. We're going to see a lot more names that are going to pop up in the coming weeks. Guys that have kind of kept things pretty quiet because they don't want it out there. Then they're going to show up on campus, and we're like, oh, I guess he is interested in Alabama. So we're going to have a lot of those guys pop up, and you never know what might happen.
It just seems destined at this point after the talk about NC State and the wolf position at Alabama, NC State wolf pack, wolf position. We got to talk about the wolf spot in this Alabama defense. And right now at BamaOnLine.com, another great feature from our staff with Andrew Bone checking in, hungry for a wolf. I like the Duran Duran reference there, Andrew. You've already got me hooked as a reader with that headline. Alabama looking to close one of its top defensive targets. And I know there's been, as you point out immediately in this update, Dawson Merritt, the top 100 linebacker from Overland Park, Kansas. But you talked about this too just a minute ago. It's not just a Dawson Merritt situation, right? At that position, there's the players that you mentioned, and that flip watch kind of applies to the Wolf spot too with a couple of these guys. But JoJo, in terms of the most intriguing option, maybe at the Wolf position, where would you kind of go with that if you were asked to choose one of those guys at that spot?
I think I may be biased because I just did a story with his mom earlier this week. Justin Hill, Bone mentioned, out of Cincinnati, Ohio, Winton Woods High School. Alabama got to see him a couple of weeks ago during the spring evaluation period. Christian Robinson, Kane Womack, Freddie Roach made their way out there. Got to spend some time not only with Hill but with his family as well and the coaching staff. A good amount of time with them during their stop, and really goes to show that how much of a priority he is for the Crimson Tide to send a trio of coaches there, and all of them are pitching into the pursuit of Justin Hill. But in terms of that conversation with his mom, I mean, she loves Alabama. First off, she loves Alabama, the program, the culture, the tradition, the energy on campus, everything. She loves it about Alabama. She's been a fan for a few years now, prior to Justin receiving his offer last June. And even Justin said that during our initial conversation a few months ago. He said his mom is a huge Alabama fan. He knows this, and that's something that obviously, could play a role, talking about just, her perspective on the program, what she likes about it. She's always asking him, where Bama kind of stands in his pecking order. He hasn't revealed it yet, but she talked about just the relationships that have been built with the staff. She said that Kristen Robinson, outside linebackers coach, has done an exceptional job so far, being able to connect with Justin. Remember, Robinson was a former SEC linebacker, played for University of Georgia, so he can connect with recruits in that respect. Playing the position, playing it at a high level, and he's also young too, so he can connect with them, and he's done a good job of connecting with Justin and the family as well. Emily also told me about, Kane Womack, how she was kind of like close to being on the verge of tears when Kane was talking to her son, and, the reality setting in that, he is a top priority for Alabama, that this is really happening. And she said she was giddy the whole day afterwards. She was just really taken aback by that entire experience. So Alabama's really made a great impression on her, on Justin, who visited for A-Day game that weekend. He's going to be returning for that official visit next month, June 14th to the 16th. So, Bo mentioned how Dawson Merritt has Alabama in his top two of Nebraska. I think Alabama is, battling it out with Ohio State right now for Justin Hill, who also has USC and Oregon under consideration. He'll take officials to all those schools and announce a commitment on July 3rd. But the feedback takeaways from that conversation with his mom were pretty significant.
And so with that, Andrew Bone, let's go ahead and look ahead to what promises to be a crazy month of June. And not going to take long for all of that to get started. Summer camps cranking up, a big list of visitors for the upcoming run of June visitors. What kind of stands out to you about what we're going to start to experience here in the next week or so?
The official visit season. I mean, it kind of crept up on us. I was kind of surprised it's already here. We just went through the spring where we saw just so many, recruits that were on campus. Seen a lot of, we just went through spring evaluation period where coaches were on the road. We saw so many new offers, and we always kind of tell people, like, most of those offers are come to camp offers. We're going to see you in camp. But a lot of kids aren't going to camps this year, especially the 2025 guys. If you're a rising senior and you have 15 offers or more, most of those guys are taking official visits rather than going to camp. You're still going to see some guys that are going to come in that are going to work out, but it's probably going to, those numbers are certainly getting lower. 26 guys. I think you can get as many 26, 27 guys on campus to come in and work out. That's going to be significant. But, Anthony Jones, number one player in the state for next year, out of St. Paul's down in Mobile, edge rusher. This is a guy that says that he's going to be in next week for camp, going to work out. So I think that's certainly very positive because it's going to be the first time the staff has been able to work out with him, see him work out in person outside of going over to St. Paul's this spring. So Coach DeBoer's finally going to get a chance to meet with him. So I think that's going to be huge. But the official visits, 13 official visitors already for next weekend. Probably going to see double-digit numbers just about every week. So you got May 31st, then you got the June 7th weekend, June 14th, June 21st through the 23rd, and then you hit your dead period. Dead period hits on June the 25th. That's going to last an entire month, all the way until July the 25th. During that period, we're going to see a lot of decisions, a lot of commitments. Might see some decide to wait and go to some more visits that last weekend in July and then decide in August, but majority of these kids are taking their official visits. And it's kind of funny how, a year ago they passed where you can take unlimited amount of official visits, but everybody's still kind of in that, 5-6 official visit time. And a lot of them aren't even taking 5. They're still only taking 3 or 4 official visits. They're not taking advantage of all these official visits. They're narrowing it down to their top choices and getting these decisions over with. Of course, it's hard to take as many visits as you want to sometimes because you got obligations with your high school. You're trying to go to officials during the weekend, so you really only have about 4 or 5 weekends where you can or weeks where you can go and take these visits. So, gonna be busy summer. I mean, we've got 30 plus official visitors already confirmed on BOL for the next 4 weeks. Going to be interesting to kind of see who decides to jump on board, who decides to set commitment dates, and who moves up and down the recruiting board. Because even though you're going to have different kids that are going to come in for official visits, you're still evaluating. The evaluation process isn't over. You're sitting down with these kids, you're learning more about them, you're sitting with them in the film room. Players are going to be around these kids for the weekend, and then they're going to meet with the staff afterwards and say, hey, we feel like this guy has the right mindset to play here. Maybe he doesn't. That changes constantly, and you're bringing in more kids now because so many kids aren't going to football camps anymore. So you're bringing them in, for a little off the field evaluation, more than anything. So it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out because there's going to be kids that don't favor Alabama right now who are going to favor Alabama in the next couple of weeks, and there's going to be kids that potentially are favoring Alabama right now who are going to be favoring somewhere else.
And if we're being honest, the collectives are going to impact this stuff too. I mean, the itinerary for these official visits has changed in the last year or so. That NIL collective
That's the first meeting. That's the first and last meeting.
For some guys, the OV only needs to be about 6 hours. Come in, meet with the collective. We'll catch you down the road.
Don't even have to meet with the coach.
You don't need to rent out these penthouses for breakfast and coaches meetings and all that. Just have the collective meeting at 8 a.m. Saturday, and you'll be ready to go. Hey,
I'll say this: what Alabama was able to do during the spring, really was impressive. As far as, hey, bud.
All right.
Hey, what's going on?
Here comes the next generation of BOL right now. What's up, bud?
Live and in charge.
Tell Daddy to hurry up, man. You want some Fruit Loops or something? Captain Crunch.
Right. But what I was saying was, I think with what Alabama was able to do is, hey, buddy, can you close the door?
Come here.
Okay, I think he's staying. See, he loves being with me.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
right.
happens when,
I remember those days,
that's
man.
what happens when daycare shuts down for the
I bet. Right. Have a great holiday weekend, daycare. No, that's awesome.
He wants his 1-3 profile, right?
Oh,
But,
if this had been around back when mine were that age, yeah, you would be seeing probably 3 right now on the screen. So
I'm surprised that that's all that. I figured it would be much worse, but
don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
but anyway, what I was going to say was I think with what we saw during the spring with Alabama, as far as bringing in guys, the excitement around the program, so many kids that visited this summer or during the spring, they didn't have Alabama in their top group. Caleb Cunningham, for instance, Joseph has had some great interviews with him. This is a kid that said that he didn't want to leave campus the first time he ever came over and met with this new staff. And we've seen that with a lot of different kids. So it's going to be interesting. Now it's decision mode. It's getting down to the nitty gritty with these official visits and decisions coming up. How can these coaches close? Because it was impressive to get a lot of kids on campus, and it's impressive to get these kids back for official visits. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about who can you close, who can you get on your commitment list before August, and what's your class going to look like? Are you going to be a top 10 class? Or are you going to be a top 5 class? And the guys that they have coming in, the guys that they feel like they've got a great chance to add over the course of the next month and a half, 2 months, it could potentially be a top 3 class, or it could be a top 10 class. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see how it all unfolds. But I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun this summer covering it. And I know that Joseph's got a lot of work ahead too, with a lot of calls and interviews. So we're certainly going to have it covered pretty extensively on BOL.
Absolutely. You're going to want to be right there at BOL with us on the round table hanging out. These guys, Tim Watts, unrivaled, so to speak, I guess you could say, when it comes to recruiting coverage. Hey, Joseph, put you guys on the spot a little bit earlier with Flip Watch. Now we're going to start with you in this segment. New Alabama commitments. What would you say the over under for that is by the month of August? And what we'll show here is the commitment list at BOL as it sits right now. There you see, I guess, 10 commitments for the Crimson Tide, currently sitting there with the number 8 national ranking. There you see Daryl Duke Johnson, Derek Smith. It's an impressive group, but how much do you anticipate that list growing, Joseph? We'll start with you, between now and, let's say, August.
All right, are we talking August 1st, end of August?
We're talking August 1st. Is that right, Andrew, or do you want to go through August?
Yeah, August 15th.
August 15th.
August 15th.
We'll go in the middle.
It gives you a little bit of time before the fall jamboree start.
Yeah,
All right.
you can tell Andrew's a salesman, right? He kind of went in the middle there with us. So go ahead, JoJo, give it to us.
Bama had 19 commits by August 15 last year. I did a quick scan, so I set it at 19 and a half. All right, let's play a little bit safe, kind of going back to last year's class. And yeah, we talked about all the official visitors that are going to be getting on campus, and then the summer, the summer camps that are going to be going on, where you can see some offers extended, not only in June but potentially in July as well. Remember, Dre Kirkpatrick, that pursuit started in late July after he camped there. Red Morgan, who Bone talked about, heavy pursuit when he attended the camp in July. I actually believe Kirkpatrick got his offer in that late July camp, so that could be something to watch as well. And then, those late July visits that eventually lead to some early August decisions. Amari Jefferson did that last year, where he visited Tennessee, then Alabama. So you never know how things could kind of change in that late July time period. I think 19.5 is a safe number for right now. We had this question posed on the BamaOnLine roundtable last week, I believe, or earlier this week, talking about just, the expectations that recruits have for this upcoming season and how many will want to see how Alabama does this season before making their decision. We know someone like Caleb Cunningham, who Bone just mentioned, is going to be making his decision after the season. Some others will as well want to see how the teams that they're evaluating performed this year. There's been a lot of changes, not just with Alabama, but with other programs as well. Coaching staff relationships, those change as coaches go from school to school. The transfer portal, which schools added at their position that they're playing, what the numbers are going to look like. And then obviously, like we talked about, NIL, that's something that you can't not factor in either. But I think 19.5 is a safe number. I'd probably are we doing predictions on this?
Yeah.
All right. I'll probably take the under on that right now. And
under 19.5. You set it at 19.5, which you feel like is a comfortable number, but you still think it could go under that.
Yeah, I still think it can. And we'll just seeing how things play out during the official. Look, this is high school recruits we're talking about. Their minds change from week to week. A lot of things can happen.
Sure.
But 19 wouldn't be a bad number, and then obviously you can have a strong close during the season before that early signing period. I know you have less of a time period, between the end of the regular season and when the actual signing period is now, with it being December 4th. So, and that proved to be pivotal with Alabama, especially with someone like a Kevin Riley who visited December 15th. But yeah, I'll go with 19 for right now, or under 19.5, I should say.
So doing the math on that, Andrew, 10 commitments right now. If 19.5 is the over-under that we're getting from Joseph, that means plus 9.5 between now and August the 15th. Where would you sit with that number? Over, under? Over.
I'm over.
Wow.
Yeah, of course, you want to get into the season, and you got some guys that are going to be deciding a little bit late in the process, as Joseph mentioned. But I feel like we've talked to so many kids that are making decisions this summer. They're trying to get all their official visits taken care of. A lot of that December signing period has moved up 3 weeks. You're now announcing a decision. The early signing period is December the 4th. Starts on December the 4th this year. So there's no December official visits. Official visits, if you're going to take them, are going to happen during the season. A lot of schools don't like official visits during the season. Of course, everybody's like, oh, you want to get them in for a big game? Yeah, you want to get them in for a big game for an unofficial visit. Official visit, a lot of these kids aren't arriving until Saturday morning. They're having to leave Sunday to get back to home. You're spending about 24 hours on campus, and you're not even really getting a chance to spend a lot of time with the coaching staff. You're getting a chance to see a great game, but you're not getting a chance to really spend a lot of quality time with the staff, with the players. So a lot of these coaches are trying to get their top guys on campus for officials right now in the month of June, before the summer hit, or before the dead period hits, because they understand most of these kids are trying to make their decisions this summer. So I do think that number is going to hit the over, in my opinion. They're at 10 right now. You never know what might happen with even some of the kids in your own recruiting class, as they're still taking visits. So you could potentially lose one. But I do think with the guys that are out there, there's 0 offensive line commitments right now. I think they're going to have 3 to 4 offensive line commitments by August. You look at the defensive line, Josiah Sharma, he's going to be making a decision this summer. Defensive backs, a guy like Dejon Lee, going to be making a decision this summer. Wide receivers, tight ends. There's a lot of options that are out there on the table that I feel like are going to be making their decisions shortly after their official visits coming up. So it's going to be an interesting summer. Who else is going to emerge potentially at a summer camp? Who do they potentially start pushing a little bit harder for after official visits? Who potentially ends up flipping? So a lot going on, but I'm going to go with the over. I don't think it's going to be 25 by mid-August, but I think 2021 is which ain't too far off from JoJo, but I do think that they're going to hit that over.
Let's clip this one and bring it back in a couple of months.
Absolutely.
Right.
We can do that. And by the way, this is a football-centric show today, but, man, basketball plays into all this too, with summer enrollees and transfer enrollees. So we're going to have all of that coverage. We're just talking football today, but when you combine basketball with it as well, it is a busy, busy time of year. It used to be kind of sleepy. Not anymore. It's happening. And it's happening with us at BamaOnLine.com. And again, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, right here. We hope that you will do that right now. Hit that subscribe button. Hit a like for us if you don't mind. We'd appreciate that. Turn on those notifications because you'll get all of our YouTube content as it drops right here on the home for BOL. Hey guys, again, just tremendous coverage for us there at BOL. We're guessing we'll have Tim Watts back next week too. So we'll be back to the quad box. I saw Andrew shake his head there. Like, I think that
whatever.
Yeah.
We'll bring in the C-lister.
Oh, wow.
Shots
And
fired.
we missed Tim. We're ready for Tim.
Get it in. Get them all in.
We're ready for Tim to get back.
We need to do like instead of the Tom Brady roast, we could do the Tim Watts roast on here. Maybe get like a 12 box or something and just
he'd love it. He'd love
it because it's all about Tim. Well, he's right there in front.
What are the chances he's watching the show right now?
Oh, where he's at it, assuming he's still there, he's on his sort of mid-afternoon break from touristing.
I think there's
everybody else is taking a nap, but Tim is smoking a cigar and watching this and yelling at the screen right now, JoJo.
He's yelling at me. I made that Wemby all defensive team selection back in July. I made that prediction. It came true, so I had a little fun with that on the round table. Yeah. Can't wait to have him back.
He's yelling at the screen right now, like me yelling at the screen for the 85 Iron Bowl, So yeah, that's Tim probably right now. Hey guys, great stuff as always. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all our viewers, all our subscribers. Again, BamaOnLine.com. This is just scratching the surface of what these guys do for us. So if you want the full experience, you need to go to BamaOnLine.com. Hang out on the round table with these guys. You're going to be more informed and entertained for it as well. Andrew, Joe, look forward to doing it again soon.
Definitely.
Thank you guys. Have a great Memorial Day. You guys give us a thumbs up on our page, and thank you for following. And we'll see y'all on BOL.
Have a safe and joyous Memorial Day weekend. We certainly want to recognize those who gave all for our tremendous country on this weekend. Something we should really do every day. We need to do every day, but certainly this weekend we want to make that a point of emphasis. For Andrew Bone and Joseph Hastings, Travis Reier, thanking you once again for joining us right here on the show. And until next time, so long, everybody.